Good evening, everyone, and thank you for spending your Friday night with us. We are so excited to share this exclusive opportunity to meet and chat with the incredible artist behind our special exhibit, Cruising the Fossil Coastline, Ray Troll. And before we kick things off tonight, I'd just like to start with a land acknowledgement. The Burke Museum stands on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people who have resided here since time immemorial and thrive here today, alive and strong. Many of you are also on the lands of Indigenous people, and we're going to drop a link to an interactive map in the chat so that you can see which lands you're on. And we invite you to learn where you're tuning in from and share that in the chat and say hello. Now, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Kate Fernandez. I'll be your host tonight. I'm the Director of Interpretation and Visitor Experience here at the Burke. And as many of you know, we reopened last week, and we're so excited to welcome you back into the museum. This special exhibit, Cruising the Fossil Coastline, will be on display until May 2nd, so please come visit us in person as soon as you're ready. In the meantime, you can learn more about the exhibit and check out other virtual cruising-related programs and videos on our website, and take a look again in the chat for a link so you can find that easily. All right, now let me give a quick overview of what's going to happen tonight, and then we'll kick things off. So tonight's all about getting to know Ray Troll, the creative genius who's established an incredible niche working at the intersection of science and art. And first, we're going to travel to his studio in Ketchikan, Alaska, where we're going to get to see the magic happen behind the scenes. And then we'll come back, and Ray's going to join us for a live draw along, where he's going to actually walk us through one of his signature art techniques, and we'll learn how to draw his favorite dinosaur. Throughout the second half of the program, we're going to be answering questions live. So if you have a question for Ray about his work, his art, or anything else that comes up tonight, pop that into the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. You can see there you can see other questions that people have asked, and you can also upvote other questions that have been previously asked. The chat feature is also open, and this is a great spot for folks tuning in to connect with each other, and we just welcome your general comments and conversation throughout the night. All right, sounds good. Well, let's get started. And we're going to switch over to the video of Ray's studio tour momentarily. And I'm going to duck out, but start asking those questions. I'll see you in a few.
Do they cry? No. Hell if I know what has happened to you. Do they cry? No. What do I know?
There's a fossil. Yeah. This is what I call Troll Henge. My name is Ray Troll. I'm an artist, and this is the town of Ketchikan. It's where I live. My good buddy Hall is filming. Hall, let's look out there. There's the town of Ketchikan. And 13,000 people. 175 inches of rain last year. There's Cruisin Island over there. And the sun is actually out today, which is really incredible. But this is our house. It's where Michelle and I and our two kids, Patrick and Karina, grew up in this house. They're down in Seattle and Portland areas now. Hi, hey, you were back there, but now you're over here. So we're coming down the stairs from my house, and I'm wearing a friend's nerdy t-shirt here, but I also wanted to point out that over the years I've been piling up common fossils that I've found here in Southeast Alaska. Like these are from a nearby island. This is actually Paleozoic coral, beautiful Paleozoic coral, Devonian aged, and from a nearby island. Coral fingers, there's more coral there. Here's a beautiful ammonite. This is actually from Morocco, actually Madagascar. That one is, but that's a common fossil. But anyways, if you look over there, that's the studio. So this is my commute. I go from the house to the studio. There's nothing digital out here too. This is the analog studio. I keep the computer stuff in the house. Coming to Ray Troll's studio. 1995. God, it's 25 years old, 26 years old this year. Then what I like to point out too, there's a ratfish up here. Here's some caribou antlers from up north in Alaska. We put these on the van that Kirk and I drove up the Hall Road. And so this was the Vanaboo antlers. And this is the studio. Come on up, Paul. So that's the view from my studio. Cruisin Island, Panic Island. And this is my studio. So, here's the place. I make all this stuff. And Hall's gonna look around at all this stuff. Dinosaurs. I'm a grown man who still loves dinosaurs. I'm buying dinosaur toys and many fossils. There's lots more fossils here along the windowsill. Actually, when I designed the studio, I wanted big windowsills for all the crap. Here are a bunch of, these are fossil casts. This is a fish from Kansas. It's a life-size cast. This is a cast. It's actually a 3D print of a saber-tooth salmon. Check out the sabers. I like to call it a spike-tooth salmon now. One of the things when I worked on my book, Sharkabat, when I was looking for a copy, I can't find that, but I actually borrowed fish from the University of Washington collection. And so I've got fish, horrible fish, in jars. Ooh, there it is. There's a ratfish in there. I could pull that out, but it's kind of horrible. It's a male ratfish. Yeah, because ratfish rule, right, Hall?
That's right.
Ratfish rule. Let's just look at why we're really here, and we'll turn on a light over here. So this is where I do my work, and right now I'm working on a couple of drawings here, and I'm trying to figure out what this beast looked like in life. And so here it is. I put a black sock in the eye socket so I could see the eye better, but this is what's called a thalattosaur. And this is an unnamed species and genus from Oregon. And a thalattosaur is a marine reptiles that flourished in the Triassic period, just as the dinosaurs were beginning to take off in the world. And there was this fossil site in Eastern Oregon found by Greg Carr and his daughter. And Greg Carr is a private collector. He's working with the University of Oregon Museum and Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. But this is one of the first drawings done of this animal. And you can see, I'm trying to figure it out. So here you can see, and look at this wicked snout. See the wicked snout. So I did this first one, then I was like, and then actually I found out, I did some corresponding with the paleontologist, Pat Druckenmiller, who's working this beast, and he told me that the lower jaw, which they have just recently kind of been working on, is shaped more like this, and not like this, and it doesn't have teeth in the end of the... So this is the kind of stuff I do, and what I'm doing is I'm drawing this on black paper with Neocolor crayons and color pencils. When I'm over at this section of my little studio, and also I do every now and then I take a break, play my guitar, and on one end of this section of my studio, this is the standing up area. Here's the sitting down area. So this is actually where I'm also been drawing Bernie the thalattosaur. This is pen and ink. And this is where I do a lot of my pen and inks. And sometimes I do the pen and inks. And you'll see this in the exhibit. This one is in the exhibit. This is in a sketchbook. It's called Prehistorica. And then I do these pencil drawings and then I ink them in. This is a good looking young man, actually old man. And this was for the book, Cruising the Fossil Coastline with Dr. Kirk Johnson. So this is, there's the Ray page, and let's see, there's the Kirk page. And here you can see his pen and ink. Then I scan this, and like I said, this is totally analog here, so I only do pen and ink and color pencil and paint out here, but then I scan this and I take it into the house, and that's the house over there, and that's where I do digital color, or I work with a colorist by the name of Grace Freeman, and sometimes Memo Howard Yee, and then we color these things. So here's the spike-tooth salmon studies. So there's a lot of stuff in here, and I'm trying to keep this all prehistoric stuff in this. Ooh, there's a sucker born every day. Get it? But here's the thalattosaur that I'm drawing over there. These are this is kind of my stack of sketchbooks, and they go back to actually my high school years, 1970s. But I try to put them up here, and the sketchbooks all have kind of different vibes to them. I'll have typically I'll typically have like 3 sketchbooks going. So this one, 2012 to 2015 Eternal Coastline. So this is 3 years worth of stuff. But what I wanted to show you, so it's kind of a journal, but there are these elaborate drawings that you run across, these 2-page spreads in this. There's one there. And these ended up being major pieces that are in the exhibit. And so here's the Vanaboo, and here's the antlers that you saw out there. So these are 2-page spreads, pencil drawings that I ink them in, and then I scan them, and then Grace colored a lot of them. Actually Grace colored this one. So these 2-page spreads are in the exhibit. There's one other thing I want to show you. Here's color pencils. Try to sort them by colors and keep the blues over here, the greens over there, the reds there. Because I have so many, it's crazy. I wanted to show you this. On account of you, Hall Anderson helped me print this. And this is a linoleum block. So I wanted a real graphic, punchy look to another version. I painted the cover as an acrylic painting on this wall here, but then I thought I really liked the look of the graphic quality of a linoleum block print. And rather than fake it on a computer, I believe in the authenticity of truth to materials. If you do it as a linoleum cut, it'll look like a linoleum cut. And then I scan the print, and then add a digital color to it. The main thing here in the studio is this massive wall. And the massive wall I've done, I think, 3 or 4 large murals and large drawings, maybe half a dozen or so, but some of these paintings take me a year to do, including the University of Washington Fishes of the Salish Sea was painted on this wall. You can see the outline of the paintings. But the studio was designed so I could have this big wall to work on and stand up. This is a ratfish hat made by Russell Wodehouse, my ratfish brother. And with that concludes our tour of Ray Troll Studio.
Oh, wow. What a trip. That was so cool to see your amazing studio, Ray. I hope you all at home enjoyed that as much as I did. And now we're back, and I'd love to welcome our the amazing man and artist behind the show, Cruising the Fossil Coastline, Ray Troll.
Hey, it's me, Kate. good to see you here. I am sitting in Ketchikan, so you're down in Seattle, but I'm also want to do a land acknowledgement too, that I am sitting in the traditional and contemporary lands of the Tongass Tlingit people and the shared waters of the Haida and Tsimshian nations, and been lucky enough to live here for 38 years. So.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us and bringing us up to where you live. And I feel like we're connected tonight because it's just starting to snow here in Seattle. So we're really in the mood for you, and
well,
really ready
here. And I like to think of this as far northern King County. So just saying.
Perfect. That really sets the scene. Now I've got a question for you before we jump and switch gears. And I also want to remind the folks at home to use the Q&A feature that's at the bottom of your screen. There's these 2 little bubbles, And that's a great place for you to add your questions in for Ray, and we'll get to those later. So while y'all are thinking at home, my question for you, Ketchikan looks like such an inspiring place to create, and it's so immersed in nature. What's your favorite part about being based there? And are there any challenges that you run into?
Good question. Well, the challenge is it rains a lot. 175 inches last year. That's like 5 times as much as Seattle. But I think that's a good thing because it actually keeps me in the studio. But what is so inspiring really is that as you saw in the video just down the hill here, there is the Pacific Ocean right here, the North Pacific. And that's just a couple blocks down the hill, and just a couple blocks that away is the beautiful Tongass rainforest. And we're also in the midst of a culture that has been here for 10,000 plus years, and very inspirational. So it's a really cool, inspirational place to be.
I believe it. Okay, a little bit of a different question for you.
Uh-oh.
If you could, you know the answer. If you could only have one tool to make art with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
An entire set of Crayola crayons. I started drawing dinosaurs when I was a kid, like 4 years old, with Crayolas. And, you know, I think if I had to go to the desert, I can have a set, right? Not just one crayon.
I'm in charge, so sure, I'll grant you that.
Okay, thanks. I'll take that. Crayolas.
I love it. All right, well, we'll get back to questions at the end of our session here, but let's switch gears to the draw along and our art lesson. Some of you who are at home may have the special supplies that Ray has recommended, some black paper and some Neocolor crayons. But if you don't have that, it's no big deal. You can grab anything you have at home and that will work. So while everyone at home's getting set up to draw, Ray, will you just give us a little overview of this technique that we're going to learn?
Yeah, we're going to draw on black paper here tonight, Kate, with Neocolor crayons. These are some Neocolor crayons, a little set that I have. There's 2 different kinds of Neocolor crayons. There's the water resistant, the Neocolor 1s, and then the water soluble Neocolor 2s. And you got to think in reverse because we're drawing on black paper. And actually, speaking of the Crayolas, the big difference, I can't really use Crayolas on black paper because there's too much wax in them and not enough pigment. So these crayons are heavily pigmented, and so they're professional crayons, and so they cost a lot more than the Crayolas. But anyways, that heavily pigmented crayon allows you to draw on the black paper. So then I'll talk about that in a minute.
Great, that's a great foundation. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I've got my crayons ready at home, and now we're going to add a second camera. We call it the art cam, so that you can have a bird's eye view of Ray while he's working. And I see the questions also coming in through the chat. These are great. Keep them coming as we're drawing along. And with that, I
can see me.
There you are. We got you. All right, with that, I'm going to duck out, and you take it. You take it from here, Ray.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, you can see my COVID hair, what's left of it there, my COVID cut. Hey, well, thanks for joining me. We're going to draw. I'm going to try to get as much of a triceratops done as I can. But as I was saying before, we're going to draw on black paper. So here's my black paper. This is a piece of Strathmore black. It's not just regular old black construction paper. So it's a nice deep black. And these are the crayons. And the thing is, I've also got my favorite dinosaur. We're going to draw my favorite dinosaur. Here's my favorite dinosaur there in the art camera. Can you tell what it is? You can probably tell what it is. It's a triceratops. So I know a lot of people like T-Rex, but I've always had a thing for, you know, the ceratopsian dinosaurs of the late Cretaceous. So this is a Neocolor crayon. I've got a little crayon holder here. You can get these, so you can use, they're a little spendy, but you can get these, and it's sort of a crayon extender. So if you break that crayon, but one of the very first things you have to do when you're starting out drawing is, I have a white colored pencil here. You can use your white crayon as well, but I've drawn out, I have a piece of 22 by 30 inch paper here. You could draw whatever you want, but if you want to do a triceratops with me, I've lightly sketched one out, and I want you to use the whole piece of paper. So if I hold this up, hold it up to this camera here, I think you can see, yeah, you can see it there. The white color pencil showing up. So that's just an outline. That's a contour line drawing. So as simple as this is, you could do that line drawing and simply fill in the line drawing with color. But what I want you to do is start thinking about a light source. And if you're drawing on a piece of black paper, one of the most natural things to do is to think, well, this is sort of like a nighttime scene. So why not make it a nighttime scene? And I do a lot of moonlit drawing. So one of my very first things, I'm going to start out with the moon. So I'm going to think about that as a light source. So there is the moon shining there. So I'm thinking about light coming down from the moon, and it's sort of a cool light and sort of a, well, actually maybe sort of a warmer light. But the thing is, as you start drawing on the paper with your heavily pigmented crayons, you're going to see, I want you to grab a color, and I've grabbed an olive green here. It's a lovely olive green. This is a Neocolor 1. You'll actually find that Neocolor 2s go down on the paper a lot easier than Neocolor 1s, but the Neocolor 2s are water soluble. I usually don't use water at all on these because I just like the texture of the drawing. And also, one of the things about the paper too is this is the Canson paper. But you want to draw on the side that's really, there's a smooth side and there's a textured side. The more texture on the paper, the better the crayons are going to grip the paper. But, so I'll be using an olive green. It's lighter than the black paper. And I'm thinking about the moon as a light source up there. The basic thing you've got to think about is you're not drawing the shadows. If you're drawing on white paper, think about it. You're always drawing like the dark areas, the shadows, and you're kind of doing you'll do a contour line drawing, but you're starting right in on the shadows. Well, when you draw on black paper, you're drawing the light. It's kind of a cool thing. And so kind of the closer I get to my light source, the more pressure I put on. And think of the black of the paper as being your shadow. So the more pressure I use, so this is where it's like completely different. If you're using a white crayon, it'd be the same kind of thing. If you use more pressure, the lighter it is. And I'm going to let the black of the paper be, you can start to see this, and I'll hold it up to the other camera here in a second. So I have to draw like a demon here, or like a frisky dinosaur, get her all done there. But the more pressure I use, the lighter it is. And I'm just using this one color right now. I've got my white moon up there. But I think you can see it's starting to come up. And did you know the triceratops, they actually have beaks, just like a bird in a way. So they found fossilized beaks. So I've got a beak here. I'm gonna hold this up so you can kind of see it's starting to come up. See that? You can see the triceratops. You can see where I'm using a little bit more pressure as it's closer to the light source, the white light source. So now I'm going to take a yellow ochre crayon, and I'm going to kind of block in the beak a little bit. And then of course, triceratops, just like a tricycle, it's got 3 horns. So I'll get a horn color. I'm probably going to use a gray for that. So blocking in real quickly. And one of the things too, when you're just filling in a shape, an area, think about the shape of what you're drawing and maybe try to mimic the movement of, you can kind of sculpt, think about how that shape appears in space. So you kind of draw along the shape of things. And I'm not using a lot of pressure right now. I'm kind of blocking it, but then as I start leaning into it, I'll use more pressure. And I'm going to get my brown here for the Use this for the horns. Nice brown horns. But I'll show you real quick here. And I want kind of a lighter brown. I'm gonna come back in over that. And the closer I am to that light source, and I'm just thinking about the moonlight catching the cores of those horns. There's the 3 horns. Here's the one in the nose. The triceratops are one of the very last dinosaurs to live on our planet. Them and T-Rex, they were there that very bad day in the Cretaceous when the comet hit 66 million years ago. But you can kind of see this coming up. There's the horns, there's the beak. But now I want to show you something very different. Actually, if you look at my book, Sharkabet, if you've ever seen this book, so it's alphabet of sharks. Every drawing in this book was done with Neocolor crayons. And pretty much, even here on the cover, I do this thing where I have the one light source coming up, and then years ago I started getting into like putting a color into my reflected light. And I want to show you what reflected light is. I just kind of hold up an orange surface here, and if I put my hand in the shadow here, but if I bring it up over that orange, you can see how, when I take it away, see how the orange just fills in my hand. Look at the shadow on my hand. You can see light bouncing back up. So that's reflected light. So if I think about another light source, I have a light source coming from the moon up there, and I put some clouds up there, and I put some stars up there too. But I'm going to think about a blue kind of light, a light blue, sort of aqua blue, off on to the right here, and kind of bouncing back up. But watch what happens when I just start with another light source here and have it shimmer up across. And it's kind of cool. So here's my blue. Let's make that more of an aqua. So there's the triceratops without. And let's see, I've got until 4:15 to 4:45. I got 11 minutes. Okay, I'm looking looking for how much time I have. Okay, my assistant, Michelle Troll, my beautiful wife, is off camera cueing me. How much time do I have? So here's sort of an aqua light. And I'm thinking about this light coming from this direction here. And the closer I am to that light source, the brighter that is going to be. So the stronger I put pressure down. And I think about all the places where that light is going to hit. This aqua light coming from the opposite direction. And I'm really enjoying the texture of the paper, and the way the crayon glides across that. And I like to also, so here, check it out. So there's a little bit of aqua kind of coming up. You see that? Coming in from this direction here, get the light coming down from up there. Got the light shining from my chrome dome up here, much like a Pachycephalosaurus. But I'm going to draw in one of my little favorite things is I usually start right in with this is I'm going to go for an orange. I start right in with a detail, and I'd like to start kind of getting to know my little creatures. I'm going to put the eyeball color in there. I'm grabbing an orange. And one of the things that, when I know I'm kind of in the zone, which means the flow has started. I'm just drawing. I'm just really enjoying myself. I start making sound effects, and I've been doing this in my entire life, and I still do it as a 66-year-old man. I start kind of humming to myself, but also you know you're in the zone if you're kind of making sound effects, right? And I did it with dinosaur drawings as a kid, and there'd be stuff exploding, there'd be little screams, but maybe kind of start purring to yourself. And I'm going to put a nice, brilliant white highlight right there in the eyeball. You see the little white highlight there. So my little triceratops kind of suddenly has some personality to it. But one of the things too is that as you're drawing along here, too, you want to make sure that you start using more of the colors, and you can blend the colors on top of each other. So I've got the olive green kind of blocking it in on the frill. And you know, you don't need to make your triceratops an olive green. You know, nobody was there to see what color these creatures actually were. Some people actually conjecture that the big frills on the ceratopsians were a lot for display and not so much for defense against creatures like T-Rex. They were there to show off to other triceratops. So I'm also going to take some of that ochre and these little nodules that are on the frill of the ceratopsian dinosaurs on top of the edges of the frill, just blocking those in. And I'm drawing. How much time do I have?
About 6 minutes.
6 minutes. Yikes. Well, it's starting to take shape. But what I want to show you is I have some lighter greens. They're lighter than, got two other colors. You get bigger sets of these Neocolor crayons, and I can show you right there. See these lighter greens. And I'm going to come in and put some lighter color green on this. And so I need to wrap it up in when?
About 6 minutes.
6 minutes, okay. So here's a lighter green. So now I'm having it catch that light coming from the moon in that direction. So here's that lighter green going on top. And my little triceratops is starting to look rather frisky, coming to life. I'm going to take a kind of a light yellow crayon here and come in along the top there. Take the blue. So, no, I've still got time here. It's 5:15 here.
I'll tell you when.
I think it's 5:15, right?
Yeah, they want you to keep going.
Well, I think that this is just kind of coming along here nicely. And actually, one of the things with most animals in the world are counter shaded, even your dogs and cats and mammals. And counter shading means basically their bellies. If you catch a fish, it's beautifully counter shaded. Usually a shark is counter shaded, means their bellies are lighter. And even with reptiles. So I'm gonna, with my triceratops, it's coming up here. I'm going to put some kind of lighter color here in the lower part, because I think that usually, like I said, most reptiles, but it's like if you turn them upside down, they're going to be lighter colored. So I'm going to take a sort of light gray and sort of lay it into this area. And then, you know, most creatures in the natural world are also kind of camouflaged. They'll have not only that counter shading going on, but they're very likely to be striped or polka dotted or kind of calico and or big bands of color. Especially reptiles are going to have that. And then there also might be, like birds will often have really outrageous colors, and that's basically to impress the opposite sex. Like a peacock. The male peacocks are ridiculously colored, right? So like I said, as I draw, I like to think about the shape of things. So if like this is a sort of weird little cheekbone thing that pokes out on my triceratops. I can sort of help describe that shape, and even here in this frill, I kind of draw in the direction of the frill. But now I've got a really light colored crayon here. You see there's that counter shading in there. Maybe I'll take a light blue into that now. Here's a light blue. There's a couple of different shades of blue right there. And there are sets of like 84 crayons that one can get. If mom and dad will buy you all the crayons, go for it. Like I said, they come in nice tins. Well, also one of the things too, especially as I'm finishing up a drawing, you can mix this with other media. I sometimes use oil pastels over these. You can experiment too with the Neocolor crayons, the wax, the oil-based ones, and try taking one, then draw over them with the water base, and then take a little water to it and see what happens. Put a little blue light here. But I also come back in when I really want to start adding detail, want to clean things up. I'll come back in with like a black color pencil to really clean up an edge or to help define it. And let's see here, I want to have some nice light coming in that horn core. And sometimes I will also stencil out areas, and I'll cover this with wax paper, and I'll cut out stuff, and then I'll spray paint into the backgrounds. And you can see some of those pieces in the at the Burke Museum. But here at the very end too, I really want to get some strong highlights going on. Like I said, this is a lovely crayon holder that's especially made for these crayon d'Ache. These crayons are made in Switzerland. And if you break those crayons,
You see this?
I can't see that. What time is it?
Oh,
What's
no,
it saying?
It's not a time thing.
So everything is kind of catching. See these little highlights coming up right here in the horn core. So with that, I'm going to have my beautiful assistant, Michelle,
Wait, 5 more minutes.
my much better half, well, actually much better half, Michelle, if you don't mind, hand me this drawing down here. I've got a drawing that's pretty much finished. Just like Martha Stewart.
Okay.
You know, you've seen it cooking in action here, but here's kind of here is a semi-finished drawing that I did a little bit earlier. So you can see basically the same triceratops there. And here you can see it there, but you can see this kind of blue light thing. But you could actually, like I said, you could draw whatever you want. You know, draw a fish, draw a jellyfish, draw a mermaid if you like, you know, and don't worry about what it's going to look like at all. But, you know, think about two different light sources. Maybe have a blue dinosaur with pink light coming up this way. And you'll be amazed at how quickly, when you start thinking about two different light sources and kind of sculpting that, how sculptural your drawings will get. But also I want to show up too, see this sort of banding here. I just took some of the ochre crayon and went over the green to kind of do a little striping thing. And then I also cleaned this up with a little bit of black colored pencil. And I also put a few clouds in and notice the little highlights in the clouds, and there's a few stars in there. So this is the triceratops in the moonlight, walking around, oh so happily in the late Cretaceous, hoping the comet will not hit anytime soon.
That is so cool, Ray. Oh man, I could watch you draw all day. Good,
Well,
thanks,
they're
Michelle.
side by side. It's kind of cool to see them there. I got
Yeah,
so yeah.
You do really well live on
I
demand
introduced
art.
my Michelle. She handed me. So this is Michelle. I wanted.
Hello. Hi.
Hey, Michelle, thanks for all your help.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, hopefully folks at home learned a few things and had fun drawing along. We would love to see your masterpieces. And so please post them on social media and tag at the Burke Museum. We'll be posting our favorites on Facebook and Instagram later on. And while I'd love to keep going, we have got some great questions from the audience. So I wanted to take some time to answer some of these awesome things that people are asking us about. Sound good?
That sounds like a plan. So people have been asking questions as I've been drawing along here.
Yeah. So, okay, we've got a couple of technical questions about what you were just drawing.
Yeah.
The first one is, which side of the paper do you draw on?
Well, like I said, the first thing you'll notice with the different papers have different textures, but the Canson paper has got a smooth side and it's got a textured side. And actually with the Canson, very distinct, but I like to draw on the textured side because it's going to grab, so that grit is good to draw on. And sometimes if a paper is way too slick, it's really hard to get a crayon to move across it. So there's a lot of nuances to those. So get different brands of paper and yeah, experiment. But usually the texture is the best.
Cool, good to know. Okay. All right, we have a kind of two-part question in which Kelly asks, in many of your colorful drawings, the black line art is very distinct. Is that drawn over the color at the end in black, or do you use masking or other techniques to make the lines so distinct?
Well, they might be thinking about some of the digital art that really is pen and ink or even lino cut with real bold black lines. So this technique is not really line driven, it's really more color driven. And so I think maybe like these finished drawings in like there, I think you can see that without the glare, this big old shark, shark. And this is the color pencil drawing there. And so so if anything, I do actually, but still, if you look closely, I do kind of use some of that pen and ink kind of look to this. And I'll let the black of the paper be my shadow area, but I will also sometimes really go in and just dig out strong black lines with a Prismacolor.
Okay.
But obviously, when you're working on the dark paper, there's no reason to be using black crayons or anything like, really dark, something as dark as the paper, because it's just not, it's like using a white crayon on a piece of white paper, right? But I do come in and really bring out bold shapes and sometimes stencil out things, so.
Oh, cool. Okay. And then the second part of her question is, do you also work in Photoshop? And if so, do you create layers to help make the negative space transparent while retaining your really fine line
Yeah,
art?
that's a really good question. Yeah, a lot of the art in the you'll see in the exhibit. Here's the book, the companion piece to the exhibit, and I believe these are available in the gift shop. But let me open up to a page that's got some digital color in it. Like here's I don't know if the glossy paper shows this off, but yeah, this is a pen and ink drawing of salmon, a saber-tooth salmon, but it's pen and ink. It's black and white. Then I scanned it, and then I put it into Photoshop. And yes, I use layers. And the big key thing for me, as I learned early on, was to make a layer and then put it on multiply. So on that next level up, the little toggle, put it on multiply, and then you're able to color behind the black line.
So that's blew my mind. Pro tip.
Professional tip, put it on multiply, and then you're drawing behind the black line.
Awesome.
So that's a lot of what I do when I do Photoshop.
Yeah. Well, okay, switching gears a little bit. Let's see, we have a question about how you incorporate new research like that about theropods with feathers or melanosome pigments into your paleo art.
That's a really good question. And, you know, I'm really trained as an artist first. My degrees are in art, but I work with scientists. So I really like to make cool, compelling images. I like to get the creatures right because it's really a drag when a paleontologist or an ichthyologist comes along and says, you know, you've got the wrong number of fins on there and the wrong number of fin rays on that. And then new research will show that maybe we didn't know that, you know, the buzzsaw shark doesn't look like this. And now we have a new discovery. Now there's feathers in a dinosaur. So you have to roll with it, kind of adapt. It is Darwin Day, by the way. Happy Darwin Day, as adapt or die. But you have to incorporate that new. So, you know, if you look at drawings and paintings of dinosaurs from the 1800s, they reflect our understanding at that time. And it's changed so much in my lifetime. So now dinosaurs in my youth were thought of as big plodding things. And now we know they're birds or dinosaurs and they're colorful. And so, yeah, we incorporate. You gotta, and then sometimes Photoshop fixes everything, right? You do need drawing, but Photoshop will fix it. Fix it in post, as they say.
Love it. Well, we got, I have another technical question about a fossil from Clark, and he asks if you got to see any fossils to model for the specimen that's pronounced Ugrunaluk. Grunaluk, thank you.
A Grunaluk, like out of luck, a Grunaluk, which is a beautiful name. It's an Inupiat name and means ancient grazer. Yes, I did get to see the fossils of the Grunaluk. This is the duck-billed dinosaur from Alaska. It's a type of Edmontosaur, big duck-billed dinosaur, but there are a lot of juveniles been found. But yes, I did draw. I had photographs of the skulls, and then I also was able to go study the skulls, and so I did like to lay flesh over that in my drawings. So yes, I got to see them.
Oh, cool. Okay, well, we just have kind of on the same art about expanding your art. There are some artists who specialized in diorama paleo art. And how do you compare your art to theirs?
Dioramas as in backgrounds for exhibits, that kind of thing, Kate?
Three-dimensional.
Oh, actually three-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Well, dioramas, you're usually creating a whole environment, right? So you're trying to get all the, I did this book with a paleobotanist. So he was always after me about, getting, if I tried to put on the realist hat and put the surrealism to the side, Kirk Johnson would make sure that all the plant life was correct. And so I wasn't doing, plant life is radically different through the ages. Flowering plants didn't show up till really, the early Cretaceous. There might be have been some in the Jurassic. So imagine a world without the plants. So yeah, it's a daunting thing, but mine are kind of like little snapshots in a way. So they're not quite dioramas, but I have done some background painting for some museum exhibits, and I've worked with a team. I'm a slow painter, but I can draw a triceratops pretty fast.
You sure can. Well, that's thanks for answering that one. We've got a couple of common questions that have come in and kind of two variations on it. So Elon asks, what's your favorite fossil? And that's different from the question that Raven and Genevieve asked, which is what's your favorite dino?
Well.
Or maybe it's the same.
No, they're different. My favorite fossil is the buzzsaw shark. Helicoprion is a Permian age shark that I got obsessed with for 20 plus years. And the closest living relative is actually more of a ghost shark. It's closer to a ratfish, actually, a living ratfish. But it's this beautiful spiral of teeth. It looks like an ammonite kate. I don't know if you've ever seen these fossils, but they're just this beautiful spiral of teeth. It was a shark, a ghost shark, that kept all of its teeth. And the fossil itself is absolutely beautiful. It's a huge spiral of shark teeth. And the best fossils of those are found in Idaho, of all places, where 275 million years ago, there was an ocean. And then as far as my favorite dinosaur, I'm not kidding, oh, wait, the camera's not on this camera. I like triceratops. They were tough. But what's cool is that, these are basically kind of like the cattle of the Cretaceous, along with the duckbills. There were thousands of these guys, but the Triceratops has got an earlier cousin called Styracosaurus, which is even cooler because it's got a lot more horns all along its frill, and it looks just crazy. But there's something humble and cool about Triceratops,
Absolutely. Well, that's great. I'm glad to know you have very specific answers for fossil and dinosaur.
Do you have a favorite dinosaur, Kate? I'm going to throw it back at you. Just put you on the spot.
I'm going to think for one sec and then respond. Because I work for the Burke Museum, of course, the Tufts Love T-Rex is my favorite. And it's...
Okay. All right. Yeah, T-Rex is cool. No denying that.
Literally can't beat it.
No, you can't. Even with the tiny arms.
Oh man. Okay, well, now we have a couple of questions more about your career and how you got started and or how you do your work. So first off is just generally, how did you get started as a paleo artist?
Well, I started with that Crayola at age 4, and really that's the arc of my career. Not really, but I've been passionate about it. I was good at drawing as a kid. I really enjoyed it. I truly enjoyed it. I did make weird purring sounds, and my mother worried about these strange noises coming from my bedroom. But no, I've always loved it, and I began to just think, this is a thing that I'm good at. I really like doing this, and I kind of set early on, I was going to work to be an artist, and I went to college, got my art degree. I got a Bachelor of Arts degree and learned a lot. It was around a lot of other very inspirational artists. This was in Kansas. And then I moved to Seattle, the great, beautiful Emerald City, in 1977 after I got out of undergraduate school, and moved to Seattle because I heard about cool stuff. So I was there, at the beginning, and I ended up going to Wazoo for my master's degree. Got a Master of Fine Arts degree there in 1981. And and I wanted to teach at a college level, and I was able to do that. here and there and did it part-time for many years, but then kind of my t-shirt career and doing art like that took off, and I'm able to survive as an artist. So multiple things.
And so it's your full-time job, right?
This is my full-time job. Yeah.
Okay, well, Gary Cooper from Texas, it wants to know how much time you spend observing nature compared to time in your studio drawing.
That's a really good question. Especially here in COVID pandemic times, I've been doing a whole lot of walking and a whole lot of hiking in the woods, and really walking down to the dock every day. I try to walk down to the waterfront every day, see what's going on down there. So I spend a lot of time observing, and a lot of people know me for my fishy art. So I've done a lot of time fishing and looking at a lot of fish when I did that big mural for the University of Washington over in the fisheries building there. A lot of that's firsthand observation, and yeah, I think it's important. And I think it's actually a really interesting thing too, Kate, is that I think that's something that scientists and artists really have in common. As you observe, a lot of people can cruise through life and not really look around. A scientist might be there counting everything and or categorizing things, but an artist be experiencing it and wow, look at that color, and yeah. So I don't know. So good question.
Yeah, it's a great observation, a great connection.
And observing, yeah. Observation about observation.
That's your next song. You can attribute it to this. So this is there's a couple of people want to know about work you might do outside of the West Coast, and one person asks, you and Kirk have covered Middle America and the West Coast with your first two books, which we love. So when are you guys going to do Cruisin' Fossil Appalachia?
Ooh, I like that title. We're talking about it, but and actually it's the obvious thing, and we did, when Kirk was at the Denver Museum, we did a book about the sort of Rocky Mountain states. And then because he kind of grew up at the Burke Museum, and I have a real great love for the Burke Museum as well. It is one of the coolest, most wonderful museums in the world. We had an exhibit there together in 2009, and we had to add content to it, the Washington State map. And then we realized, wait a minute, we're starting a whole new book on the West Coast. So really all these things kind of came together at the Burke Museum. And so now Kirk is running a little museum back east you may have heard of. It's called the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. So he's pretty occupied with that job. But we're talking about the East Coast book, and certainly want to do it. We've also talked about the European book, and so.
Well, judging from some of these comments, it sounds like folks are interested in that. I have one other question about the other type of creative work you do. And Nick Wood says he loves listening to your Paleo Nerds podcast.
Oh, cool.
Can you tell us what inspired you to start podcasting? And is this your first time doing audio work?
Well, I've been in the band for many, many years, the Ratfish Wranglers. You heard some of the music in my band. I think everybody should be in a band. Kate, are you in a band? You should be in the band. But oddly enough, when I have a good friend who's a paleo nerd, but he's a ventriloquist who's very well known in Australia. And oddly enough, he's got a house here in Ketchikan, and his name is David Strassman. And he was supposed to do a tour in Australia last year, and it was canceled. So he was twiddling his thumbs, and he approached me and said, hey, let's do a podcast. And it's like, I'm a boomer, like, what's a podcast? So we got into it, and yeah, we've had some fantastic interviews with all kinds of scientists, and so it's Paleo Nerds. You can catch it on all the platforms, and we have a nice website, paleonerds.com. We interviewed Christian Sidor, who works there at the Burke, and a great episode with him, and also with Peter Ward, who used to be at the Burke many years ago as a University of Washington professor. So a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool different topics. So check it out.
Yeah, great question. I'm glad we got to plug and get a reference for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
David would have been disappointed if I didn't mention it. So thank you.
Okay, I got a question that cracks me up, but it's probably very important. And it's from Asher, and he asks, do you draw theropods with lips or no lips?
Ooh,
Hmm.
who asked this question?
Asher.
Asher. Asher, that's a really good question. I should draw them with lips, but I love the teeth, man. So, but actually, yeah, if you look at modern day lizards like a Komodo dragon, a monitor lizard, when they shut their mouth, you don't see the teeth. They basically have lip coverings. So I've always done my T-Rexes with all the teeth exposed when really, so if they're roaring, you could probably still see them. But even then, when a monitor lizard opens its mouth, you don't see a lot of the teeth. So a lot of artists draw them like a crocodile. You see all the teeth. But, until we get a lot of the facial structure, maybe we don't have those fossilized lips yet.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Like
practice
that's a perfect nerd question.
I know. It makes me want to practice my theropod lips. I'm just going to keep smiling at you. So, okay, we have time for one more question.
One more.
Well, I know, it's just starting to get fun. Just listen up. So the last question, people want to know, what is this artwork that is right behind you?
I knew that question was going to come up, Kate. I don't know why, but this is a beautiful painting by my good friend, Josephine Hockenhull. She was a professor at WSU and one of my best friends. And I was in a band with her and her husband, Jim. But about 5 years ago, I just knew I wanted one of Josephine Hockenhull's, or I call her Joe Hockenhull. I wanted a painting from her, and it grew into this beautiful big painting behind me. It's acrylic on canvas. And this is our little house on the hill here in Ketchikan, Alaska. So yeah.
Oh, well, thanks for that. And thanks to everyone at home for these amazing questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to them all, but I hope you come visit us at the Burke Museum to see Ray Troll's art and the new exhibit, Cruisin' the Fossil Coastline. And if you like what you saw today, please keep an eye on our website, because we'll have a few more virtual programs coming up in March and April that you can tune in and join us for. In the meantime, oh yeah?
Quick question. If I fly down and how do I just go to the Burke Museum, or do I get tickets in advance, or how do I do that?
That's a great question. So we right now are booking all tickets in advance. We have a really easy to access form on our website, and folks at home, we'll be plugging that in for you. So you check the link, and we'll have a link to both the programs and our ticketing system. We are open Tuesday through Sunday, 10 to 5. And of course, we're always open for the first Thursday of every month for free and at extended hours until 8.
Cool. And wear a mask. You gotta wear a mask.
Masks required all the time. Why not wear 2?
Cool.
Can't hurt.
Seriously, they say to do that. So anyways, Kate, well, thank you. And it's been a real honor and a privilege to have an exhibit at the Burke Museum again. It's my 3rd exhibit there. It's such a wonderful museum. Please support your museums, become a member, and enjoy all the perks that you get with membership. And yeah, go see the show while it's there. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Ray. And just thanks to everyone for tuning in today. And I want to give my most heartfelt thanks to the amazing support team who's working behind the scenes. Helen, Tim, Melissa, Ro, and Courtney. You're the wind beneath our wings, or the moonlight on our frills. This has just been so much fun. Please check out more about Ray Troll on his website, trollart.com. And with that, we're gonna power down, but we'll leave the webinar open so that you can still grab some links from the chat. And at the end, when things close up, there's a survey that's gonna pop up, and we'd just love to hear your feedback if you have time to share with us a little bit more about your experience. So thanks again, everyone. Practice those dinosaurs, post them on social media, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Ray.
Bye-bye.